Hello, my name is A. Ruth Proctor, and I am the author of I Survive, You Can Too, my self-published autobiography about surviving child molestation, domestic violence, infidelity, but still being successful as an entrepreneur, a mom, and a sister. I have been an entrepreneur for 15 years, working in the mental health field, running a non-profit that caters to foster children and children of parents that are incarcerated or parents that are in domestic violence situations and they possibly could be homeless and just trauma, dealing with trauma all around. So I am in the process of teaming up with a company to continue to bring awareness to foster care programs and bridge the gap in the community with the supports, with with therapy as well as groups twice a week in the next month or two. So that's something that's really dear to my heart. I love giving back and helping kids that look like me, and that's very, very important. The book has really brought me into a different space when it comes to really helping people and talking to people about survival and talking about different ways that I coped with the different traumatic events that I experienced as an adult and as a kid. And I think one of the questions I'm asked a lot is, like, how did you get to this point? How are you able to cope in how are you able to cope with dealing with some of the things that I've endured? And I tell them all the time that God is definitely, in the forefront of everything that I do in every walk that I take. So as long as I know that He's guiding me, I know I'm in the right direction. And so I definitely try to speak from a place of healing, but I have to remind everybody that I'm still surviving. I have my days that are good and I'm upbeat, which is most of the time. And I have my days where I'm like, today is not today is not a good day, but you know what, that's okay too. And I think the key that we find in ourselves is finding grace with ourselves no matter what we're going through. And we take time and patience with ourselves and listen to ourselves, we can really, stop some of the continued traumatic things, such as self-sabotage, self-blame, depression, anxiety. If we really learn to listen to ourselves, then we can push those things back and put something positive forward. So I wake up every day just trying to, feed myself with positive affirmations, doing devotions, praying, talking to God, working out, as well as, going to the steam room daily as much as possible to try to, just constantly keep myself in a good space. And that's where I really find solace. So I encourage everyone to continue to push forward in the middle of this pandemic, in the middle of all the things that we're dealing with right now with this pandemic, but to remember why you're here and what you're here for. We all have a purpose, and we all have a reason to live and to be here on earth. So the key is finding that purpose. And when you truly find your purpose, that's when you really find your happy place. So I'm challenging everyone out there to truly find your purpose in life. And if you don't know your purpose, ask God for your purpose, and He will show you.
The recording has stopped.
Okay, so now here, I'll go ahead and I'll throw some questions out to you. That way, so that was a good opening.
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
On the mic with Mike King here with A. Ruth Proctor. So you brought your book along with you. Tell us the process for you writing the book and what it means to you.
The process of writing the book was definitely, starting from scratch, pulling journal entries, really honing in on the things that was important to me and the things that I struggled with, the traumatic things that happened and pulling those things out and really talking about it. And from that point, I just began to write. And there was days where I didn't feel like writing and I gave myself grace in not writing that day. But I challenged myself to write more than less. And in 2020, I finally, produced my book. I had 2 companies that I hired to help line edit and detail edit the book, as well as proofread the book to make sure that it was, pretty much, like flowing correctly. Because I didn't go to school for writing. I just went to school to be a lawyer and to really, be in the city manager's office. But of course, I decided to write this book. So I really had to feel comfortable with knowing that it was okay to print. So once I had the publishing company, edit, I self-published through Amazon. So from that point, in December 2020, I produced and self-published my first book, I Survive, You Can Too.
How do you market a book once you've written it?
You pretty much just start reaching out to different, news channels, different, book companies, people that look like me and you know, really finding that niche. And if you have an area that you're focused on in your book, I definitely recommend collaborating with other people that do the same thing that you do. So I just had to find my way, reaching out to people that I knew, reaching out to other entrepreneurs that was doing similar things as me, and continuing to push the narrative. And I'm still continuing to push the narrative.
Alrighty, so you have multiple business ventures. Talk about the different business ventures.
So I started off owning a salon and spa in Briar Creek, in Raleigh, the Raleigh-Durham area, North Carolina. And then from that point, I continued to expound on the mental health side that I was already working in. And from that point, I opened my nonprofit, and then just continued to try different things. I have a boutique that I'm revamping right now. I did consignment, women's fashion. I always have loved fashion, and just continue to just try new things and different things. And along the way, you find your passion, you find your purpose. And I love fashion, art, and music. Has always been my happy place. So I'll try to intertwine all three of those things into everything that I do. And as long as I'm happy and I'm able to be happy with helping other people, then that's my purpose, and that's what I really hone in on.
Talk to the listeners about self-care and the importance of it.
Self-care is very important. We can, work every day and take care of the kids and, take care of our mates and stuff like that. But if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're really not fulfilling our purpose here on earth. And so I would definitely encourage every woman, every man out there to take time for yourself. Take time to take yourself to dinner, take yourself to lunch, get you a massage, take a walk, whatever it is that makes you happy, hone in on that. Hone in on the hobbies and the things that make you smile. And that will make you feel better about working every day and doing the things that you do on a day-to-day basis.
What is it about, tell us a little bit about your nonprofit and what it means, and talk about the foster care, why that's so important to you.
So I was a foster child. At 5 years old, I was taken from my mom and I was placed in foster care. And for the next pretty much 6-7 years, I was shuffled from house to house in foster care. And so in 2008, I started my nonprofit, Building Foundations Together Incorporated. And we really cater to foster kids and parents that's incarcerated and really bridging the gap. We do book bag drives, we do things for Christmas, we do things for the holidays, and we also do different programs in the community to bridge the gap between the foster parent, the foster child, and DSS. Because as you guys know, and some may not know, that a lot of foster kids don't have support. Just because they're adopted or just because they're in a foster care program or they're in a home doesn't mean they're loved, doesn't mean that they're provided the basic needs that they need. Outside of just, clothing and shelter, they still, have possibly lived a traumatic event or been through a traumatic event, and they're not even with people that they know. So sometimes they're placed in a completely different environment that they're used to, and they gotta adapt to that environment. So they feel abandoned, they feel lost, they don't feel loved. So trying to bridge that gap to give them that support, to let them know that, yeah, I know that how that feels, and I've been through it too, but this is what you can do to move forward as a person. So Building Foundations is really all about bridging the gap and really, helping foster parents understand what foster kids go through. Just because you adopted me doesn't mean that this goes away or that you replace my parents. I still yearn for the love and support from my real parents. And I know that you might give me support because you're here. It still doesn't take away the fact that I don't have my real parents. And so I really try to explain that to parents that are foster parents and DSS.
How important is that they understand?
It's very important because it can make or break a child. If I'm in your home and you don't know that I was molested in foster care and you tell me I'm gonna send you back to foster care, that's a trigger for me. And so that's what was happening to me. I was adopted by my cousin. I was, placed into a loving home, but she didn't know what I had already been through in foster care. All she seen was that I am being taken care of now by somebody that's in my family, not knowing the things that I had been through while in foster care. So I think it's important to ask questions. I think it's important for foster kids to get therapy. I think it's important for foster kids to have support, and not just physical support, loving support. Because a lot of times you feel abandoned, you feel unwanted because you don't understand why you're in foster care. So if you're a foster parent out there and you are, not asking these questions, you should. Because there's a lot of things that kids hide and carry because they don't think that nobody cares, or they don't think nobody is listening. And I was one of those kids that didn't think nobody was listening, didn't think nobody cared, because guess what? None of those questions was asked. Nobody never asked me, what happened when you were in these homes? You know, how do you feel not having your parents? You know, what can I support you in? What can I do for you? Or what is it that you need that you're not getting here? Those questions aren't never asked to the kids. And I think it's important. It's time to sit down and have some serious conversations to children that's not yours, because they are carrying the weight of the fact that they don't have their biological parents, whether you are giving them all the love and support or not.
The recording has stopped.
Okay, go ahead with this one. Go ahead and wrap up and put in there whatever you want, like contact info. It's on you to just go ahead.
And if you are
Meeting is being recorded.
if you are a survivor out there and you want your story heard, please reach out to me on my website, www.averyproctor.com. I host a Women Supporting Women Wednesdays every Wednesday on YouTube, and I try to highlight, other survivors, other entrepreneurs, other business, minded people that have a similar walk and that want to tell their story. And I love to hear it. I love to support and encourage other people to also tell their story of survival, so that we all can learn to help others through our pain. And I think that's the key. We go through things in life not for ourselves, but for other people. And I think if we continue to hone in on the things that hurt us and walk towards the fears and not walk away from it, we find our true purpose in life. If you want to find me, you can find me on my website at www.averyproctor.com. And I look forward to seeing you guys and talking to you moving forward. And I'm on all social media networks as Avery Proctor. Thank you so much for having me.